All right, I'm going to get started. Joining me today, my name is Jennifer Shaw, and I'm a Senior Project Manager at Palantir.net. The topic of my lecture is 10 weeks to build a virtual conference for 100,000 attendees. I will discuss an approach to managing multiple teams on the same project to tackle information overload. Also, I will cover how finding the right way to coordinate with multiple vendors and stakeholders can support your ability to manage risks and decisions. Having a successful project always hinges on communication, and we will explore the different methods to achieve this. What we were asked to build. Every year, our client hosts a huge in-person conference where people can learn about their tools, engage with a community of users, and get consultation and support from experts. Our client planned for their 2020 conference was going to be the most important ever. Organizations were seeking to understand and communicate critical information about the COVID-19 pandemic. Our client's in-person conference quickly pivoted to a virtual conference. We were challenged with creating a virtual conference that gave the same value as an in-person conference. The goal was to create a seamless, integrated experience that pulled content and services from multiple providers into a single platform. This conference was to span 3 days and operated in 3 different continents. The timeline for this project was 10 weeks. This platform involved working with multiple vendors on a 10-week timeline, with Palantir serving as the technical lead. We were the drivers. There were predefined vendors and technologies, and Palantir was going to help integrate it all together. I'm going to speak a little bit about team formation. As a project manager, I suddenly felt I was the one holding the hot potato. A team structure was needed quickly to support the upcoming work. We follow an agile methodology at Palantir, and high-performing teams are usually structured between 5 to 9 people. We were a group of 20 teammates. We needed to organize quickly to define roles, responsibility, and the work. The team needed to hit the ground running. In order to support the work that was needed, we divided into 5 different teams, which later blended into 4 teams. This was a short, intense project, so we needed to work in an agile way, adjusting our team shape as needed during the course of this project. Can you think of a time when your team size changed? Did this cause additional challenges or benefits? Since there were 4 different teams that needed to coordinate their work, we needed to find a way to establish communication across teams. This was done through a team of teams structure. The heads of each team met on a daily scrum to evaluate new information and learn together the best approach forward. There are a large number of meetings with the client and the vendor that could not be attended by a single person. We needed to divide up which meetings each head of team would attend. The team of team daily scrum became an essential place to share information across teams, including the individual team blockers as well. This structure worked really well for us, and we would use this model again if we are working with a large team size. As a project manager, I have many tools at my disposal, and those tools can change from project to project. One of the biggest struggles we were dealing with was that requirements and scope of this project were not clearly defined. There were many decisions that needed to be made. These decisions often involved multiple vendors along with a client, resulting in many back and forth discussions that were working against a tight timeline. Can you think of a situation where you were waiting on a client to make a decision? What was that process like for you and your team? It was my role to make sure nothing slipped through the cracks. It was time to bring our risk and decision log into the fold. This tool is used to capture risks to the project with corresponding mitigation plans. We also used it to capture decisions that we were all in agreement on, as well as outstanding decisions. This log became a focal point of every meeting. It also helped us to narrow down the scope of the project. This document can be adjusted to your individual project needs. All vendors and the client were invited to add items to this document, so it was used in a collaborative way. It was essentially a living document. Let's do a walkthrough together on how to log a decision. When was the decision made? Here is an example where we put a date in February of when a decision was made. The next column, we can log either a pending decision or a decision that we landed on. This example is a pending decision. Should we support IE 11? We have an associated priority level. It can be a low, medium, high, highest blocker. Who made the decision? In this case, it's an individual we're waiting on. And we have here that this decision is assigned to Tom. This is really important. It helps draw the focus of who's responsible at this point. The date the decision is needed by, which is very helpful if you have a tight timeline or many dependencies around this decision, followed by some more details. IE 11 is only used by 3% of the users. Finally, we have the impact of the decision. This decision impacts the scope and timeline of this project. Supporting IE 11 will add 50 hours of additional development. Now that we've logged our first decision, it is ready to be discussed in our next meeting with the client and the vendor. So I'm going to go back to the previous slide. So I'll talk about this confirm box, which is in column A. And this box would be checked once the decision was agreed upon, as well as communicated out during a meeting. Decisions could also come up during an internal scrum relating to how we will build a particular feature. The decision log is a great tool to capture those decisions as well. Keeping this log up to date makes it easy to reference past decisions as well. We are now going to take a walk through the risk log. Usually what I would do with the risk log is I keep it on a separate Google Sheet, on a separate tab actually, on the same Google Sheet as the decision log, to make it easy to find. So you could toggle between the two in a meeting. You could bring it up and say, here's the decision log. Now let's take a few minutes to look at the risk log and make sure you cover both of those tabs. So once again, we have when was the risk log. We have a date associated with it. We have a category called risk category. You're welcome to change this depending on your project needs. For this project, we use technical complexity, scope, and timeline. This particular example is flagged as technical complexity. What is the risk? We like to use a statement, which is an if-then statement. If we do not receive API access, then the project cannot be completed. And the impact of this is high. Who identified the risk? Here we put the client. It could also be a vendor. It could be someone else besides that. Consequence. This affects the timeline and the budget. It might also affect the scope or quality. You can add and the schedule as well. We have many different things to choose from. Mitigation plan. We will create dummy data to be replaced with real data from API at a later date, as well as additional comments. We have been waiting for API access for 3 weeks. This request is currently with the IT department. Just like the decision log, we have a confirm box, which is at the beginning of the log, and this can be checked once the risk has been discussed. It does not mean the risk has been resolved, but it does mean that everybody has a shared understanding of what the risk is and what the mitigation plan is. Now that we've logged all risks and decisions, what's next? How is this information processed? We had a situation where we had a decision in the log for many weeks. Each week we would shine a spotlight on the outstanding decision. This continued communication of bringing focus to this decision supported us to stop the client from continuing to punt that decision. We were able to demonstrate how the continued delays had spanned over a long period of time, which supported us in getting a decision landed. The risk and decision log is a tool that everyone can use. It creates an ability for anyone on the team to elevate a risk or a decision to the stakeholders by adding clear context around it. If a project has many pending decisions, it can be an opportunity to revisit the scope of the project and the dependencies around those decisions. Logging the risks in a centralized document gives everyone a clear picture of where the project stands, bringing extra visibility to the potential pitfalls approaching. I have a few minutes now. I think 2 minutes. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I will be uploading this presentation this afternoon to the Dropbox. And you're welcome to contact me on Drupal Slack or email. I also want to point out that Palantir has a booth, so please stop by and visit with any questions. We'd be happy to meet you and get to know you.